and there we are. Now we are live. Welcome everyone tonight to another edition of Afterburn Soccer Show. Well, I went blurry all of a sudden there with my camera. That's weird. Yeah, we'll see about fixing that. Anyway, welcome everybody. It is excited to be back. It's been a weird few weeks here. Let me get my camera here pulled up here. All right. And figure out what's going on with my sharpness. All right, well, anything, nothing. Oh my lord! Oh, there it goes. Boom. All right. Okay. Good. We're back. Video working, audio working, and I'm here with a good buddy Ismael Belcora. You can follow him at Belcora Isma on X or whatever it's called now. On Twitter, previously known as Twitter. And, of course, I'm Nathan Hill. I'm the host here. You can follow me at Nathan J. Hill there on Twitter. And, of course, get some updates and articles and stuff at afterburn.soccer, our Substack site, and where we like to break down some of these results and actions and things that's happening. And it has been a weird couple of weeks for FC Dallas fans after the disappointment of that loss against Inter Miami that went to PKs. FC Dallas has had a long break. They were supposed to play this past weekend, but then Philadelphia advanced in the Leagues Cup, so that meant a rescheduling of that game later on in September. So it's just been a waiting game for Dallas fans and watching Inter Miami steamroll through the Leagues Cup. Although it looked like it was a great final, really competitive final in the end, but Messi didn't waste much time in winning his first title here in North America. Wow, interesting storyline. So here's what we got to look through the show today. FC Dallas, of course, prepares to play Austin. Welcome Austin FC at home this weekend. And then North Texas. Meanwhile, we can also touch upon them. Another a loss in PKs this past weekend as they played the Tacoma Defiance and played apparently a strong game, but could not keep their lead and then lost in penalty kicks once again. Although they signed Diego Pepi today, and so we'll talk a bit about that. And, of course, we can talk about what's going on in the rest of the league with Savarese out as Portland Timbers head coach, or what that might mean for the coaching changes across the league and things. So, anyway, some interesting stuff to get to. But let's just start with FC Dallas is in action again this weekend against Austin FC. Ismael, how you feeling about it? You ready? You ready to see FC Dallas on the pitch again?
Well, we're finally getting all the players back healthy. Like the majority of them were back for the Leagues Cup game, and I think it showed because we were able to keep up with the eventual eventual Leagues Cup winners. And I think it signifies a lot about like how much dire straits this team was in. That the team that is in the third of the East currently lost 4-1 to Miami at home, and like Dallas was able to almost win that game if it weren't for a little bit of Messi magic. And I think that signifies that in the next coming games, hopefully, Dallas is going to be able to pick up steam and get back on the top of the line of the playoff line. And, I mean, we're only 7 points from second place. This Western Conference is kind of insane. And we have a little bit of a buffer between us and Kansas City and Portland. So it's not like we're out of the playoff race. I definitely think there's a lot of room to grow into this team, and with everyone back healthy, and with a little bit of a break, hopefully they'll be able to hit the ground running.
And looking at the schedule ahead, I know there's a good number of games for FC Dallas at home, so there's really a chance for them to gain a lot of ground on those in front of them, and then still some things on the road as well. They have been a pretty decent road team this year. So yeah, I mean, I think they're healthy, but other teams are going to be healthy too now. I think I'm hearing that Austin FC is also mostly healthy at this point as well. So That'll be an interesting wrinkle. But yeah, I think from what we learned about the Leagues Cup play is that FC Dallas really did use those games to sort of get some new ideas on the pitch to open up some freedom. We saw the emergence of Bernard Kamungo, who looks like, I mean, I know Paul Areola is healthy, but do you start Areola over Kamungo, or do you try both of them, and keep Obrian on the bench? A lot of guys are in form right now, so it's going to be interesting for those coming off of injuries to try to win back a spot.
I mean, I think that you can play both Paul and Kamungo. I would think that is what they should go with against Austin. I think if we drop Kamungo to the bench, at least currently with the form he's in, that would be ludicrous. But the other thing that's important is to continue playing Velasco in the middle. Velasco had been basically useless for like the majority of the beginning of the season and wasn't playing up to par. And as soon as Nico had the idea of playing him in the middle, like he worked magic against a player like Busquets, and they played really well against Mazatlan and Coxa with Velasco in that center. And I think that with Velasco in the middle, and then you have both Jesus and Kamungo playing well. Honestly, I would like to see Ansah play at left wing. I don't think he's been perfect, but I think that Ansah is a kind of winger that isn't like the rest of the wingers, where he's strong on the ball and like he has kind of a verticality that's much more strength-wise than Oberon. It's about like keeping the ball with him and like not letting anyone take it from him. I think that's a winning combination. And I think that to enter the game against Austin in a lineup different than what we played against Miami would be very, very confusing.
I had my chat box covered up here, and yeah, here's Todd throwing some shade at Ismael. Ismael does
also until Paxton came on, Todd. Like it was more Paxton than anything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So Velasco in the middle has been a revelation, and I think you're right. I mean, I think he'll probably still get some time there, a bit depending on the opponent on left wing. But I don't know how you go away from that. I mean, it does leave Paxton sort of out of the mix, and that's disappointing. But let's be real. Like Paxton's been solid this season. I think he's been good, but we still are we need him to be that a little bit more of that attacking presence that can break teams down with his movement, with his passes, his vision, and he hasn't quite been able to put that on. He draws fouls. He's certainly in the midst of it. So maybe Sebastian and Paxton, they fight on that spot next to Velasco, and then of course we're all waiting too to see, I was practicing all day. Ieramendi, who from Spain, who should be a legit guy there.
Apparently, last week he was just getting. He wasn't in training yet, but he was in Dallas and like doing some work like inside. So I think that. I'm gonna be honest. Probably one of the bigger revelations this season, besides Kamungo and Paz being as good as they have been, is probably Quignon playing as good as he has been. I think it's been a massive step up from last season. That isn't to say that you don't play Ieramendi, but I do think you have a little bit of wiggle room to get Ieramendi completely up to par. I think that we have 10 games left. And if you're able to have a Champions League player, like caliber player, starting at the height of his game for 6 of those games, you'll be more than okay. I don't think there really is a rush. And I think that Facu has done more than okay at that position. So, that's why I'm looking at the lineup that we had against Miami. Maybe if you want to sub out Oberon, I completely get it because he's been a non-factor for a while. But I don't see a reason to change anything of that lineup.
Mm-hmm.
What worth noting as well, like this game, like it's important for Dallas to get back into the swing of things to make it to the playoffs. But this is also a game that will determine Copa Tejas. If we don't win this game, we don't win Copa Tejas.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a must win when it comes to Copa Tejas.
Well, looking back, and we've had those moments in the season, and there's still plenty of soccer to be played. But we question sometimes just, roster selection. We question the mix of players, what's been missing and lacking. And I just got to give credit to Nico. I got to give credit to the front office. I mean, even a guy like Sam Junca has been a steal signing that has really been an asset to this roster and stepped up in big moments, which is what you want. It's what, and of course I don't know that he's going to beat Farfan out, but you want it looks like every player is competing for spots, which is the perfect, and getting minutes and getting some minutes. So it's just like this perfect combination that you want, where even guys could are going to get on the field. Frankly, I don't know why soccer has kept the 3 sub rule for as long as it did, because I love that they can sub more players and get more guys on the field. I'd be curious to see if the data holds out for less injuries or something like that. But I mean, it just gives guys opportunities where sometimes you wouldn't get opportunities before for some of these players. And so, still, of course, it's a challenge for coaches. I think against Miami, you do question some of the subs as far as, were they ready for the moment? Were they up to the speed of the game? It's tough. It's tough. Maybe one less foul, and we get out of there with a 4-3 win. But that's part of the cruelty of this soccer reality. And so, yeah, and center back wise, I think Ibiaga has been playing just fine. He's been a veteran presence there, which is what you want. He doesn't lose his head. And Tafari, I think we need to lock him up long term. I just love watching him play, and I think he played one of his best games of his life against Messi. But yeah, that's we'll see.
Yeah, and I think that the players, like I'd say that the 3 players that have been underperforming so far this season have been Obrian, Paxton, because he's just not 100%, and Siki. I don't think Siki's sophomore year has been all that good. And for both Siki and Paxton, they now have 2 midfielders that FC Dallas just signed that are now competing for minutes. So even the players that haven't been performing, now there's more competition for them. And I think that's going to push hopefully that's going to push both at least Pax and Siki to play at the levels that they were playing at last year. Both Pax and Siki are 2 players that I definitely think the front office are looking as tradable assets next season. I mean, this offseason. And I think that this is a very important 10-game stretch for not just those 2 players, but players like Obrian, players like Quignon, like Junca. Those players are at this point in the season where they're not only playing to get the team into the playoffs, but also for contracts. And I think that hopefully, with that as an incentive, the team will continue to play at the level like they did against Miami.
Yeah, those are some good points. I do think some of this. I mean, getting a guy like Liam Fraser, who won't count as an international spot, as a Canadian, but has national team experience, and gives you a lot of flexibility. It gives this team going forward if they decide to cut ways with Jose Martinez, or it would open up this international spot to play with. And of course, Iyaramendi is. His contract only runs through the end of the year with an option for next year. So you really are kicking the tires on a legit guy who's spent time at Real Madrid and is going to be an interesting addition to this locker room, who could be perfect or could, you just, all right, well, we gave it a shot for 2023. I love sort of that creative roster building that's going on. And all these pieces here. I hope we don't trade Paxton, but I know that it could be the kind of moment where he needs like a Kellen Acosta to go to a different setting to figure out how to unlock his next level in his game. And he's been good. He's been solid this season. We love to fight. He really fights for this team, but at some point you want to see him take that next step. So several of these guys. And Obrian, man, I was ready to let him go at the beginning of the season, and now it's like, hey, give him some minutes, and he starts to look good again. He has a real purpose, as Jose always says, on this team. So a lot of options. That FC Dallas can sort of put themselves in a position to maybe even field offers for a wide number of players and see what works best for them and, how they want to proceed. That's some good flexibility and good competition, as you said, going into the rest of these games. I mean, so looking at Austin, they lost this week, right?
6-3.
Gosh. And they lost to St. Louis, they're not in a good place as a team. Of course, that scares me because it's still going to be, bragging rights. Here's a chance for Austin to just come in and just eke out a draw with us, and make life miserable. And then
what's the one thing that they're playing for this season?
Yeah,
they're in the lead for Copa Tejas. Like that is the one thing that they performed well at. They got to play Dallas and Houston at 2 times when both teams were shallow in numbers and got 2-3-0 wins against both teams. Like, now Austin's in a position to win that trophy, and like this game is gonna be one of those important games.
The rest is tricky. I mean, it's going to be a tricky one for FC Dallas to get back into the grind right away. But they're at home, so they've got to be. They've got to be the better squad, the squad you got to look to. Ferreira, I thought he had a good Leagues Cup and really great Leagues Cup coming off Gold Cup. And of course, we heard these rumors about Ferreira maybe going to La Liga, and evidently just maybe some smoke, maybe just some internet chatter. It doesn't seem like it's, and the deals were sounding weird too, like a loan with an option to buy, which FC Dallas wouldn't take that. It's just not realistic. So, Hacer Elmovic, Dynamo Zagreb. I don't know. I don't think I really follow them too much. But welcome to the show. We're talking about Major League Soccer. Of course, Messi over here just won the Leagues Cup, this special tournament, and he performed as billed. I mean, let's just say that goal against Nashville is just cheat code. It was just a cheat code. It's not fair that there are human beings who can just do stuff like that, where other people have to work their whole lives to be skilled enough to even get a shot on target, Well, let's shift over to before we do some predictions and things, to FC Dallas's reserve team, North Texas Soccer Club. It has just not been their season. I think at this point, it's been weeks enough that we can say that, letting go of Javi Cano as head coach really didn't fix any of North Texas's problems. It's a young team. They have reinforcements now, some fresh faces, exciting young striker from Argentina. Just announced today that they signed Diego Pepi, the little younger brother of Ricardo Pepi, who's playing for PSV now in Europe. It's a nice talent to look at. Doesn't have the size of his big brother, but could really have potential to grow in his role as a striker. So overall, North Texas continues probably offensively to be all right. It's just defensively, these mistakes at key moments in the games that turn into goals for their opponents. Games where North Texas dominates and then just makes those mistakes, and they end up drawing a game which they were leading for majority of the match. It's a young team, so maybe that's expected, but I think the new interim head coach, John Gall, was hoping to work on those kinds of things and make improvements. And so far, it's been kind of more of the same. And I think North Texas's postseason hopes are on life support if they have not vanished already. Yeah, I mean, Ishmael, I don't think we've got a chance to talk about, Cano's departure and where this team is. I mean, what was your take of what FC Dallas was wanting to see more of, and kind of where North Texas is? Because at the end of the day, too, I think, like, North Texas isn't a failure. It's doing what it's supposed to do, is getting young players minutes, a chance to grow and develop. And Bernard Kumungo is just one example of the success of that pipeline. And I think there are going to be more stories like that to come. But just what's your take as you've been watching North Texas these past several weeks?
I mean, I don't think that the process of firing Cano was because of results. Like, I sincerely doubt that's why. I think that it was more of just recognizing that his ability to coach this team wasn't something that the FO or the coach or Nico thought that was something that worked for what they wanted. And I think that the purpose of North Texas is to develop these players. From the little I've seen, I think that the team hasn't produced that Kumungo. And I think that this team hasn't even produced a mulatto. And I think that that is something that probably does concern the FO a lot. Like, the two players that I think have probably played up to snuff to maybe possibly get that invitation during January is Sante, and that's mainly because of how good he's been for Haiti, and maybe Deshaun Rose, and that's about it. And I don't think that anyone else has Deshaun Rose is out for the season, and
Right.
that's going to be a hard sell. I think that there have been a lot of players that have gotten opportunities this season that have had sparks. You've seen a little bit from Pondeka, Garcia, a bunch of the homegrowns that they've signed. But at the end of the day, the best part of the season for me has probably been giving minutes to players that we know have brighter futures, like Mulatto and Endeli, more minutes. And I think that this season has shown which players are probably going to stay and which ones are going to go. I am interested in the signings that they've made recently. That Tabonare player came from a team out of nowhere, Portugal, I think. And you signed both Dylan Lacey and Diego Pepi, and you signed that Argentinian youngster, Taboada. So they're definitely making those kinds of signings at this point in the season signifies that, again, as we all know, this team is building for the future. Those are signings that you make not to make a playoff push, but to get some players locked up for next year that you think might be able to contribute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. And even a guy like Pondeka, I think it's taken him, and we did an interview with him at the beginning of the season on Afterburn.soccer. I recommend you go back and look at that, because it's taken him a while to really kind of get his to get acquainted with the league and the style of play. But he's come on really strong lately and has been a goal scorer for this team and scored some nice goals. And so, but he's still probably even a year away. You probably want another year of him working in this system before you really think, is he gonna, what's his ceiling, or are we, But I think he's showing that he's a walk, and he's coming on the same route that Kumungo did, where you just trial and make the team from out of nowhere. So it's kind of a nice story, but. It's an interesting place right now for this team. They played a lot of academy guys. They've gotten a lot of minutes to these guys who sometimes have played better than the quote unquote professionals. And so, like, guy like Nairobi Vargas has been really exciting to watch and in moments, but are still some very young guys who are going to take some time. So, yeah, it's just an interesting place where that team is, because on one hand, the head coaches in the front office say we want a team that wins. We want to have put these guys in playoff opportunities and stuff, which is great. But also, if you're developing for the future, you're going to play young guys, and they're going to make mistakes, and you'd rather make the mistake there than in in a critical moment, or with the senior team. So, yeah, it's a strange place. So it seems like with these signings, it is looking ahead. It's like this team is already thinking about next year and the kind of roster they can build. And Jose and I were talking too that there's some Jose was talking about that some academy players are off to college and stuff. So I think some of these signings probably reflect that, hey, we're going to be missing some guys that we're giving minutes because they're heading off to start their college career or whatever, which is good for them, But yeah, all right, Todd. I think Sir Elmovic has already departed the stream. All right. But yeah, it's such an interesting place to be, and I like Diego Pepi. Even his contract, I think, is just a year or so. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he will develop in this system, and of course, what kind of head coach they go looking for next year. I don't know that John Gall is that choice for them, maybe, but I think they're going to go out and look for someone again that will fit their profile. What was nice about this season, it seemed like that Javi and Nico had the teams playing in a really similar fashion.
I think that it's actually possible that they do end up going internal, like either staying with Gall, or if it's not Gall, then going with Michelle or another academy coach. Because the last two coaches that you went with that were outside of the FC Dallas coaching pipeline left very quickly, and I think that will be a signifier to the FO that maybe it's worth it to stay internal and keep the talent that you have. And I think that there's another thing to say about being able to keep the talented coaches that you have and giving them those kinds of opportunities. I feel like that's probably something that they're doing with Gall, because Gall's been with the academy for years and years on end. And that's why you want to give opportunities to those kinds of coaches. And I think that it might not be Gall, but I think it might be one of those coaches that they pick from internal, maybe the academy director Hayden, if that's a position that he wanted. That's something that I see as a possibility as the year goes on. They make those decisions in the winter.
Well, so North Texas will continue their campaign this weekend, and I from what I was looking at earlier on the MLS Next Pro website and kind of the standings, it's a tough situation for North Texas if they're thinking about. Right now they have 27 points, and they're still the final seventh playoff spot is Minnesota United FC 2 at 36 points. So not 9 points. They would have to really go on a nice run here. But also, Minnesota's played 23 games, and North Texas has played 24. So it would be really, really tight for the team to make up that ground, and they'd have to really overperform their numbers. Yeah, here's Todd saying maybe they should have hired Javi Morales.
He's having too much fun coaching Messi.
Yeah, that's right. Meanwhile, across Major League Soccer, the big news that just dropped is that other than New England selling goalkeepers for crazy money, good for New England. Although they're embroiled in this coach controversy too that no one really knows a lot about. Bruce Arena, possibly being under investigation. I haven't heard if there's more information on that yet. And then, but also today, Portland Timbers firing Savarese, who was a good head coach. Right, they're winningest head coach in their team history. Took them to 2 MLS Cups. They did not win, but they won the MLS is back tournament. Good for them. But yeah, and I even felt like his team's getting to the MLS Cup was really a kind of a benefit of a pretty strong roster that was already in place. Because I don't think any of their signings in more recent years have necessarily been the best. I don't know what their team building model has been. It seems like they really have just been relying on their aging guys, and that runs out. Time runs out on that. So what were your thoughts on that? I mean, it shouldn't be too surprising, right? They were 10th place. They're 10th place now in the Western Conference. Just not the way they wanted this season to go, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not been a good season. They just lost 5-0 to Houston. I feel like that's enough of a signifier, especially if they had another player. I forget who it was that was like requesting to leave and was talking bad about Savarese. So I think he possibly also lost the locker room. Maybe Austin should hire him.
Yeah. Well, that's the question, because like this weekend, if FC Dallas trounces Austin with the season they've been having, I know they've had a lot of injuries, but maybe the front office at Austin starts to say, hey, I feel like maybe if Wolf can get his team to win the Copa Tejas, and eke out some results, he'll keep his job. But if he gives up another, 6-3 loss against St. Louis, it's not good, for any team.
Yeah.
Yeah, there has been a lot of drama in the Portland front office. Heard a little bit about that from a insider a couple months back, but a lot of drama up there in Timbers land. Well, let's turn back to Austin FC before we wrap up the show for the day. We appreciate everyone's comments and questions and responses. It's kind of good to get this going again. Get the podcast vocal cords moving again. What are our predictions for this weekend as Saturday as Austin comes to town to Frisco? What are we going to see? What's the end score going to be, Ishmael?
I think it's going to be 4-1 Dallas. It's going to be another smacking, and then Wolf is going to get fired. Yeah,
I'm going with a. I don't like to get greedy. Like, I'd be happy with 2-0. I'd be very, very happy. But I think 3-0. I think FC Dallas is going to have a little bit of a slow start, but then once they get into it, Austin is going to be tired. Austin's going to be a mess. Austin's going to collapse, and Kamungo will score yet another goal, and maybe a brace to Ferreira, or at least a goal and an assist. But all right. Well, we'll leave it there. Ishmael, thank you for sharing part of your evening with us. Thanks, everybody, for Oh, good. That's before. We got to get some cred to you, Ishmael. All right.
Well, yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you. And please like, subscribe, and, of course, follow us at afterburn.soccer. We'll see you next time.
See you.